This is an acrylic cutting knife. It's a scoring knife. And you just drag it like that. And this edge right here scoops out little curls of material. I thought I had some. Where'd it go? This will scoop out, just shaves off a real small chip of material. That's what you want to do with acrylic. You don't want to cut it. You want a real fine tooth to cut it, even if you're using power tools. And you're basically scraping chips away, just like you're milling the surface. And otherwise, if you go too fast or too deep of a cut, you'll create friction and you'll actually melt it, and it'll fuse back together. It stinks. It stinks. If you start smelling anything when you cut acrylic or you're flame polishing, you've done too much. That's that right there. I'm just going to try flame polish it with some propane torch. Put it on real low. You probably even might want to take your air mixer off and just use a unfocused flame, like not such a hot flame, like a real soft flame. But whatever. plastic off. Oh, I put a line there. Ah, crap. Doesn't need to be clear, that's fine. Now, this stuff is so old it's sticking to the... I've had this for a long time. I cannot get it off. Just doesn't want to come off. It's like stuck to it. This is really bad. I can't get this cleaned up. I was gonna flame polish the edges, but I can't get this plastic off. So I'm just gonna sand it for now. I'm just gonna put it on a board to make sure I don't round the edges. Oops. Or scratch the surface, since I've already started to peel it. As you can see, I cannot get this plastic off. I'm gonna have to use some solvent. Probably because this is old. It's kind of, this part over here won't come off at all. I have to scrape the whole thing. It won't come up at all. It's just, look at that. It's just disintegrated. Well, it came out pretty smooth. I just want to hit these edges. Make sure they're not sharp. Problem with scoring it and breaking is you get this bevel that I don't like. I'm gonna hit that a little harder. I don't have a sanding block. Well, I do, but I don't feel like digging it out. This is 400 grit. You see that? I can hit that real quick. So that should go away. I'm going to sand it some more just because I don't want to melt that plastic and then I'll never get it off. Probably do this with a hot air gun. This edge is nice and annealed and beveled because I got the was able to polish that one. Only because it's not got any plastic on it. Get that kind of overheated the edge. Really like to hit this edge with the flame. It's good enough for now. This isn't anything special, it's just a base. Now I gotta drill through it and try not to crack it. So you can see that cut line where this side was curved and this side was scored. See where I hit it too hot, put some bubbles in there. I don't know if you can see the edge now, but it's much nicer. And if you can sand it and flame polish it enough, it'll be almost clear again. I don't know if you can see the difference there. While it's soft, I'm probably going to hit it with this sand right there. I'm gonna try to level up this corner. I didn't cut this corner off. Maybe I should. But I think that's where I'm gonna put a hanging slot to hang this up. So I don't care that it's all scratched up. There's a score mark actually here from where I cut the main board. So that's good enough for now. See where I cannot get that off. Let's see if I could flame polish all that white out. Let's see where this used to be really rough. Now it's nice and smooth. But now since I sanded it, I got that white in there. So once I get all this plastic off, I'll try to do it again, and then it'll be, see how shiny that's starting to get shiny. Should be able to get all that curve marks out of there. And this side has that. I wish I had a belt sander I can get it down to flat, but I don't really care. And when you use this tool, score on both sides and snap it, you get kind of a natural bevel. You just got to smooth it out a little bit. And if you get it even, it'll be somewhat even, because it's going to create a, you know, a gap on the top and a gap on the bottom, and in the middle so the stick protrude. So you get a nice bevel. Why there's those pits there. Sometimes it'll chip. I probably should have not broken it by hand, but used a clamp, you know, a nice clamp across the whole thing and snap it evenly. But I didn't feel like doing it. I was already deep enough. Turns out just using some alcohol and just letting it sit on there for a second will get that stickiness off. So now I know. This Perspex or acrylic is maybe 10 years old, maybe more. It's probably why it's having such a problem. But it came off eventually. You can see on the desk there, that's the one I just made, and then I realized it wasn't going to be big enough to hold enough components to do really anything. So I went ahead and just started making a bigger one. So if you're going to print these off, just go ahead and plan on making multiple, sections or one big rail, because you can underestimate how many components you're going to need. I'm not using this for one project. I'm going to try to make a big long one that's got enough components for several projects in it, so I'm not constantly changing them out. And just stuff on my bench that I use a lot, capacitors, bypass caps and all that. So I'm just going to mask off this acrylic so I don't scratch it and just draw some guidelines about where I want these screws to be. Make a template basically. I'm going to pilot hole drill them, and then I'm going to increase the size, and then I have to screw these in. They just tap right into the acrylic because of the size I used. And then just to use the first one to line up the second one and make sure, because it's got to be a real tight fit, so make sure it fits really good, and they slide in and they friction fit. And then I'm going to reuse this other one I have over here and add it onto here. Same process, just draw a template. That is the chassis for the purse that I'm using as a drill clamp and scrap material. Pilot hole it. You don't want to crack the acrylic unless you have the proper drill bits, but you want to draw a small hole and then a bigger hole. My bed on my printer is not very big, so I had it printed like that in small little pieces. Otherwise, you could machine some nice rails, or just print one big long one. I'll probably replace it all with ones that interlock together, so it's one big continuous rail. These are just the feeders from Thingiverse. I printed the 24 millimeter. I had to use a customizer. I have some ideas to modify these a little bit, mostly to stick the labels on the top and not behind the peeled tape. And I'm probably going to combine some to print 3 at a time, not in groups. And I've been trying to come up with a little toggle rail that can open up and close to let you take them out without sliding them to the end. That's kind of why I left that gap in there, so I can get them out without having to take all of them out. So I'll update anybody on that and post them to Thingiverse if they're cool. I really need to get a bigger printer. Just 100 millimeters is too small for some mechanical stuff.